Hey everybody, welcome to the webinar today. Very excited to see you. I see two folks down here joining me here in the studio, I guess it would be. We got about a minute left and we're gonna do the formal introductions, kick everything off in about 60 seconds. Just wanted to open the doors and see who we got waiting there. It's exciting times. We got Josh out on assignment down there. He's our weatherman out there with the, what's the weather like out there, Josh? It looks like
Clear blue skies in sunny California. No more smoke in the skies from the fires.
I know, right? It's been pretty wild over here. I don't know where everybody's from. If you want to use that wonderful chat feature. I think it is open over there. I'm looking now, or the questions, or I don't see the. Oh, there's the chat. Yeah, use the chat feature and say hey to us because we want to know where you're from, how things are going. We're gonna get started here in just about a minute or so. Give people a chance to trickle in. So yeah, I'm here. We're all three of us are here in Northern California. Some a little more northern than others, but yeah, hopefully we have about 29 people in the room right now. So throw it in there. Throw it in the chat where you're from.
Colorado in the house. Vancouver Island, British Columbia. I love Vancouver Island.
Oh,
Gotta go back up there. It's beautiful.
Oh, so we're using the questions. Okay, we'll jump into the questions. That's fine.
Yeah, that's right. True.
Oh, good.
It's not really a question, but what can we get? Cleveland.
Yeah.
Cleveland.
I love it. I'm gonna make this bigger because I want to be able to see.
They're actually saying there's only a question box for them, so that's good to know
on
our side.
I guess we didn't pay enough to turn on the turn on the chat feature, so we're gonna use the question box. Colorado, okay, beautiful Vancouver. Yeah, I'm just reading it now. Cleveland, only question. Okay, Omaha. Oh, Melbourne, Florida. Okay. Seattle guy can't find the chat. I couldn't find it either. I see it on mine, but I'm a boss, I guess, on this, so it's all good. Cincinnati, Iowa. I hear it's raining up in Seattle right now. That's par for the course. I'm from Washington State myself, so I know what that's all like. I'm from the eastern side of the state, though, not so much there. Saskatchewan, nice. Welcome, Tennessee. Good times. Got about 30 more seconds. I'm going to kick this thing off, and we'll get jamming. We're excited. Very, very good times. Well, Thursday, getting closer to the weekend. I'm excited about that as well. But man, we've got a good show for you today, and I'm gonna say it that way because we're gonna experiment with the format a little bit. It'll be part podcasty, talk showy, presentation-y. We don't want to bore you, right? So we want that hour to go by fast because you're having such a good time. Leave you wanting more and not hoping that it will be over soon. So a lot to talk about today with that title, Beyond Buzzwords, the idea of just looking deeper into what you're actually trying to accomplish as learning professionals. We're gonna go ahead and jump into the actual introduction here. My name is Mike. I'm gonna be the master of ceremonies today, but I brought along two of my best friends and colleagues here, and I'm gonna let them introduce themselves too. I'm gonna do mine real quick. I was actually a Litmos customer for about 6 years before I put on the suit and donned the logo and became the chief learning officer and now the head of all customer experience for post sales. So got a lot of hats that I wear, but one of the biggest ones for me is learning and development. I come from like the ropes coursey world, doing team building and group development and excitement and getting people to experience things, and then got my education to show the other side of that, right? To really understand how adults learn and how we can do it through distance-based approaches and such. So I've been doing that now for about 21 years. So I'm real excited. Yeah, started out real young in the industry and in the field. So that's me. Then we've got Josh and Gabe. Josh, why don't you kick it off next?
Yeah, did you hear that, Gabe? He called us some of his best friends. So
well, this is a webinar. I'm just trying to.
I'm just gonna take that and run with it.
Do it. Doing it.
Right.
Good.
Well, I'm Josh, Mike's best friend, and I just want to know. That's right. I'm an instructional designer here at Litmos, web designer by trade, graphic designer, but primarily I work with Mike's team, and we create the training in the Litmos dojo. So all of your white belt, green belt, black belt courses, I kind of created that with the certification, obviously with Mike driving the content behind that. So I'm behind the customer training side, and I do a little bit of instance customization as well. And I just, it's a pleasure to meet you guys, and I'll hand it off to Gabe for his introduction.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Gabe Vasquez, and I've been working here at Litmos for a little over 5 years at this point. I'm more on the technical side in regards to these two right here. I guess you could say I kind of play the subject matter expert kind of role. I work with our enterprise customers, making sure that they are onboarded correctly and using the system efficiently and productively. So, yeah, happy to be here.
Gabe keeps us honest. He's the one that when we start saying something, he goes, "No, that's not how it works." He's the one that's got us and make sure that we tell the right stories for sure. Thanks for being here. We're going to go around the room for everybody in here and have you turn on your mics. And I'm just kidding. And that's the entire program, right? It's just introduction. So hope that you enjoy that. All right. So you're going to notice that we like to have a little fun. We have some personality. It's not so cut and dry as to what we're doing, but we are here for a purpose, right? And the purpose is to talk about the down and dirty realities of modern learning and how sometimes we can get a little bit caught up in the shiny object syndrome, right, guys? Have you ever had that? You're like, ooh, what's the next great thing? You know, I think about dieting. That's one of the ones that is shiny object syndrome is like the ultimate, right? Every day there's a new book coming out about, you know, just eat Twinkies for 24 days straight and you're going to lose 80 pounds, right? Like, but and what happens is we look past the fundamentals of why these things work, right? We get into the fads, we get into the buzz, we follow that shiny object. But what we're going to try to do today is really look at learning from that standpoint of just like, look, what are the things that are propping up really best practice learning? You know, the things you really need to think about that aren't the shiny objects that maybe and reinforce those things, like those things are helping in that, but that you're not getting caught up in that it has to do this and it has to do that and I've got to do all these things that we're going to get to in a minute, and really back down and distill it down to its finest fundamentals. That's really what we're here to talk about today. Dig in a little bit to that. I'm going to give you some of my favorite tips and tricks and the things that I look at when I'm developing content or creating environments for people to learn in that I've learned over the years and I've found as being best practices. So I hope you're ready for the ride. I think it's going to be fun. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and kick this thing off with some slides, right? I just said it's not going to be so slide heavy, but you like visuals, right? We're visual learners. We enjoy looking at things too. So guys, let me know if you can see the SAP Litmos Beyond Buzzwords title track here. Can you see it there?
Looks good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Look at this. Technology is working so far. So I think that's really positive, right? So that's good. So before we jump in, we're going to do a little activity, right? And we're going to use the questions box because obviously we couldn't figure out the chat feature, but not your fault, our fault. We're going to go ahead and use it there. And what I want to do is in the next 30 seconds, right? Next 30 seconds, I want you to, this is going to be interactive. I want you to write in there as many different buzzwords as you can, right? This is called Know Your Buzzwords, right? If we were putting a big introduction to it. Like, what are all the things that you hear in learning and development and what are all the buzz things out there? You ready? On your mark, get set, go. Synergy, alignment, that's good. Toss it, micro, there it is, ROI.
Micro learning.
Oh, that's what I love the most. Yeah, blended, agile,
Blended.
brain science, interactive. Yeah.
Ooh, brain science is a good one.
Learning bursts.
Learning bursts is micro learning again. Yes, micro learning is going to get on there a bunch. Keep going, 15 more seconds.
Flexible. Strategic.
Yes. Oh man, we are so responsible for some of these. I'm telling you. Like, guilty is charged in your scalable Addy, point of need, nugget, sustainable procurement. Okay, here, and okay, time's up. That's great. Now I want to give an award for the best run-on buzzword sentence. You know, like come on, like agile, synchronous, flexible, flow. I want to see, does anyone have a good one that they could just run together, right? Like, if you've heard some of these folks talk about this stuff and you're just going, I don't even know how to start unpacking that, right? Like, what does that even, what does all of that stuff even mean? A synergistic, synchronous nugget of knowledge retention. You know what I mean?
It's scalable through micro learning.
Oh, it's scalable. Virtual online learning sessions. Yes, that's fantastic, Lori. That's really good. So we hear this stuff all the time, and I'm not saying that it's necessarily bad. I mean, we're going to get into why this stuff it works in just a minute and get this a little bit behind it, right? But what I'm trying to get out of here is just think through it through this lens, and just throughout this presentation and such, is that we're trying to distill down what all that stuff really means, right? What does micro learning mean if we were to unpack it, right? What are the things that, like, how would you describe it? You'd say, well, I don't know, like Josh, how would you describe micro learning? What would that, what are the,
Immediately, I think learning in small bits and pieces, right?
Yeah, right? Small
Bite-sized.
chunks so people don't get bored, right? Gabe, how about you? Like, how would you describe it?
Yeah, just like you said, small bits of learning, bite-sized burst learning.
Oh, see, now you're using all the words, huh? All the buzzwords, man. It is, in its essence, it's just simple, right? It's fast. I mean, trying to distill it down to what we're really trying to get to. Now, I have a list too. And here was my list of what I thought, some of the stuff that you would go with. Growth mindset. I don't know if you've ever seen that. Scenario based, and AI I hear all the time. Multimodal. Love that one from my old degree days back in school. Gamified and personalized and micro, blended, social, machine learning, mobile friendly, bite size, augmented, right? We've got all this. And again, augmented. Yeah, I'm not trying to say that this stuff is necessarily bad. I'm just saying that it is a distraction sometimes from the essence of what we're trying to get at, right? Could we explain it simpler, more simply? Could we make sure that people really understand what it is that we're trying to get to and what is at the essence of that? One more fun thing, because I love earlier on, somebody had mentioned this was a fun start to a webinar. Let's keep the fun going. This one's kind of cool. This is an interesting thing that we just found as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Josh here in just a second for this next little bit. I think that you're going to enjoy it as we're talking about buzzwords here. So Josh, take it away. You there, Josh? I can't hear you, Josh.
There we go.
Oh, you're muted. Yeah.
That's great. Are you able to see the window?
All I see is white.
Uh-oh. Okay. Sorry.
There it is.
There we go. Okay. All right. What we have here is the bullcrap generator. It's very much in line with what we're talking about right here. You can actually just go to the website and then just click the button, and it seems like everything we're talking about is contained here. I mean, there's a lot. Exploit user-centric applications.
I love it.
Whiteboard enterprise niches.
Oh, yeah.
Implement global interfaces. It just keeps on going.
Keep on. Today we're going to seize strategic platforms, and we're going to click it, and we're going to extend revolutionary web readiness. There we go. Now that's a
right.
Unified customized applications. I feel like we probably have made some of these that are in there and coming up. But you can actually go to that. I know it's a little adult oriented there with the in the URL, but it's super fun. We found this in our research when we were doing serious research for this presentation. Right? But it's just click it a few more times, Josh. I just got to see some more of those. They just make me cultivate B2C relationships. Okay,
man.
All right, that's good. Fantastic, Josh. Thanks for sharing that. I know a little bit of humor and levity before we jump into some heavy stuff. Actually, it's not super heavy, so that's good. So let's jump back in here, and let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again. Okay, can you see the and now this? Everybody good? Raise your hand. Everybody, I can only see 2 of you, so I'll just have to say everybody. And Amy, yes, this is being recorded. It always is, for all posterity. So good or bad, right or wrong, it's going to live on forever on the interweb. So, okay, so let's jump back into the to the session here. And all right, the whole idea here again is that we tend to overcomplicate things by trying to dig in and just try to rebrand stuff that we already know it exists, right? Like things that are out there. We want to try to simplify today, right? We want to look at it in a time where learning really matters the most, right? We want to make sure that we're offering the most simplistic approach to possible, and really as possible to our learners, and get them to really understand the why behind it, right? And for you, when you're picking products or you're picking things that you need to do to be able to get out of the mindset, it's like, I have to do micro learning. Well, it's like, well, what's the point of it? Like, what are you actually trying to say, right? And we're going to get to that in just a second, because I have a simple little check for you, right? A little check. You can stop and go, is this really what I want to do? But when we talk about things being overcomplicated, I always love this instance right here, is that my old college professor, my English professor, he used to always hate when we use this word utilize. I know in the UK and other parts of the world this is probably more common, but he's an English professor here in the States, and he was just like, man, don't use the word utilize. I hate it so much. Anytime we were in presentations, he's like, just use the word use. It's like, there's no need to bring in 2 more syllables and have 3. It's overly complicated, right? So just as an example, right? It's kind of an interesting thing there. That's like, how do we overcomplicate stuff just to make it sound more important than it is, right? Utilize and develop, right? It's like, well, you could just as well use that word and it gets the same message across. Another great example, I'm sure you've all seen these before, right? The Rube Goldbergs, love these. They're so great. Of his idea, right, was to look at how the world overcomplicates stuff and then to make a parody out of it and create all of these comics, right? So as you can see, the whole idea here is him just getting the napkin to wipe that crazy mustache that he's got or wipe his face from eating his soup. But there are a dozen steps in there throughout that process to make this thing happen, right? Where do we do this in learning, right? Where do we overcomplicate? And when do we stop and think about what we really want to accomplish and do? So here's what I want for the next interactive piece of this is that I want you to think, just take a second here, right? And use the questions so that we can pop that, and I can see your responses in here, but think about this. If you had to sum up in just a statement, you know, what would it be for your organization of what you want to accomplish in learning for what you do in the position you're doing, right? If you could just sum it up in a few words or a statement, distill it down into its most, into the essence of it, what is it, right? For your particular organization, to sum up what it is you want to accomplish and what your goal is in that. So just take a couple of seconds and let's see if we can get at least a few of them in the questions. I'd love to help employees be successful. Fantastic. Thanks for the share on that. That's great. Yeah, that's really good. Let's see. How I help them do their jobs better, right? So there's a piece in there that's about skill and proficiency, I see. Communicate and receive communication. Yeah, you know, that's much harder to do than it is to say. We communicate every day, but we don't do it well, which is another webinar, but we'll do that one later. Higher graduation rate in your trainings. Yeah, improving performance. That's right. From a business perspective, the bottom line is, right, is to make or save money, and improving performance pushes those goals, right? But if you really had to say at the end of the day what it was you were trying to do, I'm sure the business wants to either save money or make money, right? Or do both of those things in order to continue to grow. Deliver meaningful learning. Okay, I would ask what meaningful, yeah, what is that? Is that like the in their job, like meaningful that they're getting something out of it holistically? Man, I got some, this is great. I love this group, by the way. You're submitting lots of good stuff.
I like the one from Ron, learning and development that doesn't give people a headache.
Yeah, right. That doesn't feel forced on them, right? Yeah. Be informed and more connected to the volunteer force. Yeah, for volunteers, I mean, most of the time they're volunteering in all aspects, also what they want to give you and what they want to train on, improve performance. What else you see there, Josh and Gabe? Anything else? Knowledge transfer?
Knowledge transfer, that's a good one for churning employees.
Sounds like we have a little audio issue. Hopefully everyone else hopefully everyone can hear us.
It seems like I've seen that from 2 or 3 people so far in the chat.
Sorry, Frank, and whoever else, I'm not sure what, hopefully it can be resolved, but I apologize for that if you can't hear me. But yeah, these are all really, really great things, right? So distilling it down to its essence again, right? All these shiny object things, the buzzwords where we have micro learning and we want AI to help and we want all of these things, should be pushing these types of agendas of just getting people to be better, right? So I have 3 that I really like, and I build all of my training environments and everything that I do around them. And I'm going to share them with you right now because I think, and again, take it or leave it. All of this stuff is one of those things where you can take what you want and maybe it reinforces a belief you already have. Maybe it's something new that you could think about. Maybe it's common sense and you go, Mike, I know this stuff, but this is the stuff that I use every day and I found to be successful. If we really focus on cutting through the buzzwords and getting through all of that, at the heart of it, we want to make people competent, right? That competence is a huge issue here. Competence is all around those skills. It's all around them being able to do their jobs more effectively. It's around their beliefs in what they're doing, right? So that's the competence piece. The second is that confidence, right? Of them being able to feel good about themselves and to feel like they can do it, to feel confident in the task that they're being asked to do, to feel like, and that comes from skills, that comes from confidence, or from competence, right? The more that you teach somebody something and you get them excited about it, the more they can jump into it and feel more confident in themselves, which is what we want. Because somebody who's confident can just jump on and they can handle it when things go wrong, which they always do, right? Like right now, in this type of environment, this is what I do. I enjoy it. It's fun for me, and I feel like I can do it decently well. Get somebody who has never done a webinar before, right? And they haven't been taught, their confidence is going to be down, right? So when you think about it, when you get a lot of stress in your life is when your competence is low and your confidence is low, right? Then all of a sudden you're going, oh, you're just not in a good place. What happens if your confidence is high, Josh, and your competence is low? What will happen, do you think? Like you're like, yeah, I could totally do this, but you haven't had the skills. You haven't been taught the thing, right? And you come out, what's going to happen if you come out of the gate like that?
That's what you call over-promising and under-delivering.
Yeah,
right?
You're going to crash at some point, right? You're going to be like, woo, and then, and you're going to have this huge crash, which is going to make your confidence go down. And then you're going to be at the lower levels for both of those, competent and confidence, right? You're going to be in the lower levels of that, being like, oh, now I don't feel good about it, and I don't have the skills to do it, right? But what happens if your skill set's high and your confidence is low, right? That just takes practice. Yeah, you're still not going to push. So you need to find that balance, right? And what we're teaching at the essence of all of these things are to make people better, or to help them find ways in order to be better, to make them feel better, to feel like they can take on that challenge, because that's super important. With that confidence comes, they want to take on more, and then ultimately grow, right? Their growth. And I would take this holistically, right? I would say as people, as in the big picture, right? I'd say that for me, my job, I mean, Gabe and Josh are both on my team. My job with those two are not to make them drones that are just working in the business and doing things as cogs in the works. My job is to help them grow, and even grow past my team, which is fine, you know, like to get them to grow and take on challenges and continue to grow in SAP, to continue to move on in Litmos. Those are the things that I think are really important. So these are at the heart of my cutting through the buzzwords and all the stuff. These are at the heart of what I try to do every day, is try to build competence, confidence, and help people grow holistically across the board. So that's what I'm imploring that you do too, or that you look into this at the core and think about what matters most. When you're thinking about, well, I have to do micro learning and I have to do all these things, it's like, well, what are you trying to do? Well, we're trying to build their competence and get them confident again. Are there other ways that we could do it? Does it have to be microlearning, or is that just what's cool right now? And that's what we're doing. What is microlearning anyway? Isn't it just giving them things that are short, to the point, and really relevant to what they're doing right now? So there's lots of things we can do with that. Right? I could teach them in a class that way. I could get on a webinar and just they could talk to a colleague, and that's microlearning in its essence, right? So that's all I'm asking, is for you to kind of look into it there, because at the end of the day, these are, I speak for the trees. Remember the Lorax? Right? Another little fun kind of interruption, a pattern interrupter here, right? I love this little guy. Probably my favorite Dr. Seuss story is that he speaks for the trees, and I speak for the learners, right? Because the learners really want, yeah, I mean, the learners really want these things, to feel these ways, and for us to focus in on them. And what's great too is this aligns with what the business wants. I'm sure the business, all the way up to the CEO and the board and all that, want competent folks, because it's going to do what? It's going to make their bottom line increase, because they have a better skill set, their confidence. They're going to be sticking around longer, right? And they're going to be growing as folks. So I'm speaking for the learners here. And remember what the Lorax always said: unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not, right? And I feel like that's what I'm trying to get across here as well, is that we need to care about these things so that we can do these things, right? These are the things that it matters from a business perspective. Customer success, helping our customers be better. And you might say some of these could be buzzwordies, but yeah, I mean, we're guilty of that a little bit. But remember, what are we trying to get at? We want to reduce our support tickets. That's not a buzzword. By making people more competent, we're doing that, right? Like, are any of these stand out for you guys, Josh or Gabe?
I would say definitely customer experience. You want to make sure that your customers have a good experience, and then it goes well. And if you want to train on that and to improve that, that's huge. See a lot of that. Just general growth for employees and people, even though growth is duplicated.
Is it? Well, it's that
Yeah,
important, Josh. It's
yeah,
that important.
exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely. What about
I
you,
think
Gabe?
it's channel performance growth actually, but that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
increasing
ahead, Gabe.
productivity and reducing support tickets. I mean, that's massive from the support side when you're
Right?
talking about a whole, ecosystem working together within a company.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all of these are used pretty regularly for me.
Yeah. So if we can touch base on these things, right? Like being more confident will help you become better, a better leader, right? Like, cause you're starting to understand like what your potential is and starting to step into it more. And so now you're building, because remember, we're always trying to build the next generation of leaders for our teams, right? So we should be thinking that way. And I'm imploring and I'm challenging my brethren out there, my colleagues in the L&D world to think through this, right? And think that we're much bigger than just trying to get them to turn pages, get compliant with a checkbox, or to know just one certain skill, right? We're trying to holistically come at it. So again, take it or leave it. This is what I'm thinking, right? Some of the things that are really important to me as we go on. And now I promise you this little thing you could keep in your head, and just the question to ask yourself. This is it right here. So always see everything through this lens. And I just challenge you to ask yourself this: is whatever the latest buzzword or buzz feature, as I would put, because when we're in the software industry, there's always something new out. Like, I mean, you think about it, right? There's always something new now with 30% more scrubbing bubbles. You know what I mean? Like, look at any product you have in your house, and it's going to have something in there. Is it going to legitimately help me build competence, confidence, and help learners grow, right? Like if I, for instance, give you an example, if it's like AI is all the rage and it's like, oh, it has to have AI. That's one of the key things for me to buy whatever product or to implement this thing. I would say, ask yourself, like, am I going to use it? Is it really going to do the things that I need it to do? Will it help me? Okay. And if it does, then you got to use it for it to be helpful. I mean, I always think about this old computer commercial that I saw when I was a kid, and it stuck with me. And the person sitting there on the computer, all you can see is their back, and they're typing, and it's like, hey, does it have that 8 gig processor? Yep. Does it have 50 gigs of RAM? Yeah. Does it have this? Yeah. And it's like, what are you doing? And they're like, playing solitaire. I'm like, yeah. It's like, sometimes we base all these decisions on these shiny objects. Like, it has to have these, and then we absolutely never use it. Like, for example, one more example, because we have the time. I went through my 40s midlife crisis, and I bought a Tesla Model X with those doors that go up on the sides, and it looks like a falcon, like it looks like an eagle or something like that. My wife rolled her eyes and almost left me, but that's another conversation. But anyway, I went through that, and it has all this stuff. Like, one of the things, it's like an automatic parallel parking. It can do that on its own. And I did it once, and then all it became was oh, you know what my car can do? It can do this. I don't use it. I never did. I don't have the car anymore, by the way. But I never used it. I mean, it was just one of those things that was so buzzy. I'm like, I feel like I have to have that. But then once I had it, I'm like, I did not. It wasn't anything that I used. So just keep that in mind, and hopefully this is helpful for you. At least gives you an idea of, or something, a filter to run it through as you're thinking, I've got to have this. Just challenge yourself and be like, why? Okay, do I really? And am I really going to use it? Or is it really helpful to me, right? So that being said, Josh and Gabe, anything to add here before we move on?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, when I'm working with larger enterprise customers, during the onboarding experience, sometimes they'll get really caught up in these features, these other kind of extra items that an LMS can offer, to the point where, setting that up may hold up the actual go live or launch of the LMS. And often when you're doing large implementations like that, you start off with what's required, and then you do multiple phases afterwards. But to your point, Mike, a lot of those extra items maybe are not quite as as critical as you would think to your go live. I mean, the point of the LMS and training is to get learners in there and training and completing training. So maybe, the extra small features and integrations aren't quite as critical at that point. But they're cool, so it's kind of a balance right there,
Yep. And it's
exactly
cool sells, right? But going back to the basics is really what I feel fundamentally we should always keep that in mind, right? We can have the cool stuff, but we have to see how it fits in, right? And make sure that we're using it. And I know we've been guilty of this too. And I'm not saying that we're opposed to that or that we're immune to that. It's just sometimes we compete. Everyone has to compete for eyeballs, as you'll see in a minute. Because right now, L&D's role is really, oh, you challenge the shiny object, by the way. Yeah, that's really important. So just challenge that. I just want to make sure and make that point before we move on. But L&D's role, as you can see, has never been so critical. Just some stats as we get that, because getting everyone to that competence stage where they're confident and they're growing, and getting them beyond that, it's just an absolute critical thing for us. So let's throw some stats in for all of you folks that like that type of thing, right? Because I know I'm just in platitudes up here, just speaking from the from the pulpit here. I'm an evangelist in some cases. So let's throw a little bit of data right here, right? So direct effectiveness of success on your organization. So 76% of companies here state that aligning the learning strategy with the business is important or critical now, where before learning was just we will do it if we have time. I think of it like school, right? PE and music and the arts are always this thing, and things that get cut first for some reason, right? Like if there isn't time, there isn't money. Those are the things that my kids miss out on, which I think are super important, of course. But go to a business side. What's the first thing that goes? It's the learning stuff, right? It's like, oh, just do the work. We don't need to worry about that. But I think times are changing now, and people are starting to realize that it's absolutely critical to us. They have a direct success or direct effect on the success of the business. People are really knowing that, because we can measure this. We can use LMSs or whatever else you want to use to measure the outcomes and drive employee performance, right? To get them to make sure that employees you're getting everything that you can out of them because they're choosing to put it in, right? Because and which we'll look at in another slide in just a minute. The second thing, it's a competitive advantage now. 8 out of 10 executives, they think learning is important or a very important issue, right? So it's super important here that you realize that it's a competitive advantage when you're looking to hire the right people. They're asking these questions now, like, how do I grow? Like, what's my path here? Like, what's the situation like in your company? Even attracting these new talent, the best talent, is also a piece of that. And then driving engagement, performance, and retention. So as you can see here, I know I hate reading slides to you, so you can read that along. But the idea is that the companies that are more focused on the three things at the bottom, right? These learning metrics, instead of just check boxes, did they do the course, yes or no, are the ones that are the ones that are succeeding most in the industry, right? Voluntary turnover and retention, looking at that and being like, who's leaving because they want to, or they found something else. They're not getting what they need here. Is their engagement level, right? Are they in? Are they participating? Are they participating in the business? And then their performance, are they getting the job done in the right way? Are customers liking them? Those things. So as we start looking at other indications, then you start getting different results when you start measuring other things rather than just the checkbox. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, because I don't think there's anyone who would take the time to be on this webinar that's like, I just want to go through the checkboxes, and that's really fun. And say, yes, they are compliant. And I know that's a part of our job. I know it has to be, and we need the whole CYA, right, part of the business. I get that. I think we can do that, and it's not an either or, right? So let's not get stuck in that piece there. Make sense? Finally, your people and the way they work. We're going to look at that just really briefly here as well, because that's changing a lot too, and their expectations. And I don't know if you've noticed lately, but here come the millennials, right? They're coming in, and maybe some of you are. No disparaging remarks to you millennials out there, Josh and Gabe, but right, okay. they're coming. Yeah. It's the march, right? They're on their way. And so what they want is very different than what my mom and dad wanted and what I want, right? They're actively seeking more learning. Like people in the industry now are starting to say, we want more stuff to help us achieve our career goals and really get that. It's really important. And I like this one too. This is a great stat here, that every 4.2 years is just the average time that you acquire new skills, that you have to reinvent and require new things. Now, what do you think it is in tech, you two? Anybody? It's a lot lower than that.
Maybe 1 year?
2
less than 2. Yeah, less than 2 years in tech. So it's even less than that. But 4.2 is the average time in a single job, right? That's crazy. So like you right now, Gabe, you're like an old timer in tech. 5 years here at the company, which is so strange.
Did I get to retire?
You can, yeah, you can start drawing your retirement benefits. It's good. But if you
All
think
right.
about it, how crazy is that, right? Like in tech, in the Bay Area, they'd either look at you now and go, what's wrong? You know, like in Silicon Valley, like, why have you been there so long? Like you should have
Right.
moved on by now, which I think is really strange when 2 generations before it was work 30 years and, you know, retire. And that's the whole thing. So how fast things have
Mm-hmm.
changed. Connecting this back to the buzzword stuff, right? Connecting it back, getting deeper than just like the surface level stuff. We need to realize that these are the things that people really want. They want more opportunity. They don't need flashy. It's like, let's give them stuff that they want and need and can get something out of quickly. And let's just focus on that piece. It doesn't have to be some flashy new thing that has come out. Of course, you know, probably this data 24/7, people want it from their mobiles and all of that too. So the world's changing. And then the demographics, here we go, March of the millennials here. I like this one. We'll compromise. The research shows that millennials will comprise more than 1 of 3 adult Americans by 2020. And so this year, so 79% of the workforce by 2025, right? That's pretty interesting. And it's just it's a different thing there. Yeah. So good stuff. Did any of that blow your mind, Josh or Gabe? I probably did. You just blew your mind right now.
Yeah, that
We're coming.
4.2 years requiring new skills. I could definitely attest in the tech industry just being faster. I mean, in my role here, I've been with Litmos 3-4 years, and I've had to kind of adapt and learn these new things as my roles changed, and I'm right there with that statistic for sure, from learning coding to video process development,
Yeah.
editing. It's a lot of stuff.
So quick lay of the land here, just real quick. We jumped into 2 slides here with some data on it, just to really showcase again what's changing and why it's so important that we think critically about what we're really trying to do and not get distracted by the shiny objects, right? Like we really think critically about, here's the thing. And if that shiny object truly will be remarkable for you, then go for it. But think about what is actually the essence of that thing that you're trying to do or what you're trying to say. When we're and so just to keep in mind, again, I put touch points in here so that I can pull it all back together so you understand the flow of this here. So one of the big things that we want to do to get away from this content vending machine type LMS, or you're just doing it to do it and digging a little bit deeper into your learning environment, is to build this culture of learning, right? And I think this is a really important thing, because when you talk about culture, it's about the way in which people interact, the way in which they do things. You all have a culture. And right now it might be very turnkey, black, white, do this, get this. I would say, again, I'm challenging you again, is to think through your culture and think, well, what does it feel like from the learner's side? And what are we trying to create for them? Is it this wonderful experience for them to come in and yes, they have to take the compliance stuff and they have to do that, but they also feel connected to the other content where they have more of a pull approach where they go in and they actually pull down the things they want? Or are you always just pushing it to them and getting on them with your no bad dog list? That was another business that I worked for. They had that, and to get people to do their training, right? It would go, the manager would send out this list of all the people that didn't do whatever the training was, and they called it the no bad dog list. And if you were on that list, man, you did not want to be on that list, right? So is it that culture, or is it more that people are actively asking for it, right? So building the culture of learning, I'm just going to give you a few fine points of what I would suggest that you look at as you're trying to dig deeper into what you're trying to do here. One of them, remember that nothing sells itself, and I'll get into it on the next slide. This is just presenting the concepts, right? So if you're going to have a great learning culture, the first step is realizing this, that nothing sells itself, that we want to provide operative skills at recognition and feedback in this. And then the last piece is building and maintaining momentum. So this is the last piece of the presentation that we'll dig into each of these here. So nothing sells itself. Remember earlier I told you about advertising, and think about all the advertising that you get all of the time. And in fact, I'm a little scared, by the way. I don't know if anyone works for Amazon or anything on the line, but I'm a little frightened because the other day I was talking about this bike. We were comparing the new Bowflex bike to the Peloton, a friend of mine and I, and he told me about this Bowflex bike that moves side to side. You can actually lean on it. It does this thing. I'd never heard about the bike before, never talked about it before. He and I had a conversation in my house, or he was, at his house, and we were doing it through Zoom. Had this conversation, and the next day, my wife in her feed starts getting ads for this Bowflex bike, and I'm just like, very. So things really, anyway, different. Yeah,
We're all
that's
probably
true.
going to get ads now that we've talked about it.
I know.
Yeah.
The point is that advertising happening all around us all the time because they have to. They're fighting for our eyeballs, for our wallet share, but we need to think of that as learning too, because we're doing the same thing. I mean, look at that advertising industry in the U.S. alone, $200 billion a year industry, right? Do you think we'd be spending so much on that as in advertising if people just consumed the products they were supposed to? Like, oh yeah, this one. There's competition, right? And we got to think of it that way too. There's competition for something different though in ours, right? What we're competing for is this, for the commodity of time, which is the ultimate commodity. I don't care how rich you are. I don't care how successful you are. You have the same number of hours in a day as anyone else. And so how you use that is that commodity and that thing, that bucket with the leak in it every day that resets, right, and refills is your thing. That's the biggest commodity in the world. So we're fighting for that. And we have to be able to connect with our learners and connect with managers and leadership and make sure that they understand and know that this stuff is important, right? And we need to sell what we're doing in that holistic way. We're going to build confidence and competence, and we're going to help you grow, right? Going back to that again, we got to make that case and tell that story, right? At the end of the day, it's our jobs to sell that. So if you're building this culture of learning, the first place it starts with is just knowing that you need to get the word out there. Who's typing? Seriously, which one of you?
Oh.
Josh, Gabe?
That's not me.
I'm answering a question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry
Hit
about
the
that.
button, man. I'm telling you, I'm coming. Anyway, so as we're talking about this, nothing sells itself. We have to put that hat on and we have to be like, hey, look, this is why. I keep reinforcing those messages and getting people on our side. So that's the first thing that I would say to do when you're building this culture, or if you already have one, this is a point and you're going, Mike, I'm way past this. Here's what I would say to you. Look through it, use this as your scale, your measurement, as a point of reference to go back and go, okay, am I doing a good job of that, right? Am I selling it to the managers so that they get behind it and support it? Do the learners understand why this is important to them and it's not just one more thing for them to do, right? Am I doing a good job of that? So that's that piece. Next up, we've got 3 of my favorite things that I learned way back when. I cannot take credit for this, but opportunity, skills, and recognition are the things we should be pushing, right? And that covers those bases that we talked about earlier, the other 3, right? With the competence, confidence, and growing. These 3 things, man, I used to work in summer camps. It probably, you wouldn't know that. I don't have a personality for it at all. But I used to work with kids and work in summer camps. I called myself a reality avoidance specialist because during college, I'd work in the summer at a summer camp and work with kids all summer. And then I'd go to college and live in the dorms. And that was just not reality, folks. It just wasn't. But when I would go there in the summertime, I had a camp director that taught me this. And he's like, Mike, if you want to connect with anyone and you want anyone to connect to anything, he's like, these are the 3 things you have to keep in mind. You got to provide opportunity for them to do the things you want them to do. Opportunity, meaning setting up the stage, the systems, the approach, the environment, the ecosystem, whatever you want to call it. They have to be able to have, there has to be the opportunity for them to try it. I can't be like, okay, everybody, I want you to do this. And then, okay, now we'll move on to the next thing. And you're like, you didn't even let me attempt it, right? I didn't have the opportunity to do that. So think through that, right? Like, how are we providing that opportunity to folks? And then the next piece is skills, is always continuing to upskill folks and give them new skills and being able to connect to different things so that they feel like they're growing there and that they are, and they can add more value to the business, right? This is an important thing. So I'm not going to get into the last one because Josh is going to get into that, and I'm going to go into more detail into opportunity, skills, and recognition right now, but I kind of got a little ahead of myself because I'm just so excited when we do this stuff. So let's look into the opportunity thing real quick. Just take one step back, rewind the tape just for a moment, and look at a few segments of providing the opportunity. Making time to learn. Again, I mentioned it a second ago. You have to make the time. There's never going to be a moment that's good. When you go, you know what? When I have a moment, I'm going to when a time frees up, I'm going to do this. Or for you, for your group, you got to fight for that time, that commodity, and really be consistent on making that time for them to create that opportunity. Making a wide variety of learning experiences available is another piece, creating that environment, right? Many people, they learn in so many different ways by creating opportunities for them to connect in webinars, to connect via synchronous and asynchronous learning through an LMS like Litmos, to connect with people offline, you know, or in chats, or think about all the different ways that people can connect in cohorts and different groups. Providing those opportunities, you will be surprised how it can open up just a whole plethora of things that you can do. I'll give you an example. I worked at a company called Build.com many years back, and we did this thing called summer camp. Funny that I bring that up, right? And we actually brought summer camp to work. And the first one that we did was 6 weeks long, and we had all of the people inside the business teach things that they knew. When the goal was to pull things out of their brains that they knew about the business and their job roles, and also 25% of the time, of the stuff could be things that they were just passionate about in their free time. So 75% of the classes that people could sign up for, as many as they wanted to, dealt with business related stuff, Excel, learning Excel better, or understanding merchandising, or marketing 101, or sales tactics and skills, how to deal with difficult customers. The people that were doing it every day were teaching other people that were interested in learning about that. So we were connecting the dots and letting them do that. The other 25% of the time, it was stuff that they did outside of work that they loved. We actually brewed beer, honestly, in our office, and had it at a party at the end of the thing, at the end of the 6 weeks. Isn't that crazy? We did a skydive class, and I jumped out of a plane after doing a 2-day class with one of the instructors who worked for us. I mean, we did horseback riding, and I mean, just all these cool things. Again, the point is we pulled things out of people's brains that they already knew, and we gave them the opportunity in many different fun ways to be able to learn from their peers. And I'm not saying you need to go out and build a summer camp, but how can you do that virtually? You can do that easily. Spin up something, you know, get past all of the oh, it has to be this way. But like, what are we trying to get to the essence of, right? Our people have great talent. Like Josh is very talented in the UX and in that piece, you know, and I could learn from him. He could deliver a class for everybody, and we can make that happen, right? He has, in fact, built a lot of classes in the dojo. So if you see the custom instance customization class, that's all Josh, and he built all that out and put it in there because it's what he does every day and wanted to pass that along. So making that variety available is going to be a great way that you can create more opportunity for folks. And then creating the conditions that make learning matter. Again, it has to be relevant. That's the #1 thing adult learners want, is relevance. You need to say, here's how it's going to help you immediately, and here's why we're doing it. Because the what's in it for me is so strong with us adults, right? It's just, I don't have the time. You need to tell me why it's important. And my boss needs to tell me that they think it's important too, because if they don't care, then I probably don't care. So it's really an interesting step to go forward. Finally, the last little bit here, skills. We're gonna jump into that real, and that's pretty self-explanatory, so we don't need to get into it. But this is the point: immediately applicable and relevant, right? These are the things we should be focusing on, not what the newest, latest, greatest shiny object is, but like down to the fundamentals of like providing our folks with to be able to upskill and be and to reskill and just boost their skills, whatever it is, because they're going to get a lot out of it. And guess what that does? Not only does it help the business, but it helps their confidence as well too. One last little story. I was working for a school district one time doing after school programs, and one of the principals, he took a group of kids that were having the toughest time, always in detention, and he made them come to a class at the beginning of the day. Before school started, it was at 7 a.m. and it was ping pong. But they didn't use paddles, they used their hands, and they would just hit the ball back and forth. And why am I telling this story? Because what happened was, once he started teaching them how to do it, okay, hold your hand like this, and the competition, and like giving them a skill, like watch, and they kept getting better at it and better at it, better at it. The kids got better and better and more excited about things, and they honestly, their confidence went up, and they started doing better, coming to class on time. They just started to do better because he just wanted to teach them a skill. I'm gonna teach you how to play ping pong without a paddle. I'm gonna teach you how, and we're gonna dig into it, and I'm gonna work with you on your form and all of this stuff. And that was his whole point. He's like, look, if you could teach somebody that way, they're gonna be focused on it, and then when they have success, they're gonna start to feel better about it, which is going to start the ball rolling as we're going through. So see how all this stuff dovetails and it all comes back together. Skills are important, and of course, I don't have to preach to you on that, because every business, it's all about what skills they have to be able to offer a better customer experience down the road. Finally, providing recognition and feedback. I'm going to kick it over to Josh. He's got just a couple of points here to make on this, because this is so important too, right? Providing that recognition and feedback. This is the third thing that my ex camp director told me. He's like, you got to be able to tell people that they're doing a good job and let them know, even if it's just like, hey, I saw you do this, I noticed, right? because without that kind of feedback, and we feel like, oh, they know, they don't, right? So we have to be pushing
Totally.
that. So Josh, take it away on the next piece.
For sure. And, you know, I'm that specific personality type where I need actual positive recognition. There's some people who just, they need to hear that they're doing a good job, to know that they're doing a good job, just because of that confidence level. Fortunately, Litmos, bringing it actually into our platform, has a lot of different ways that we can do this within our training. Mike, if you want to hit the next bullet point, I mean, we have, certificates, buttons, and badges that you can earn through courses. And then that's basically what I'll show you on the next slide. There's a lot of big examples on that. But even just another way to provide feedback is just to let people know that, hey, thank you so much for going through the training. I've noticed you completed it. As an admin, I get notifications when everybody completes their training throughout their dojo and a couple other instances. And every once in a while, I'll actually shoot them an email saying, congrats, that's awesome. Thanks for completing your black belt or going through my instance customization course. And I get those emails in real time. So if I send an email the moment they finish that, that's like an instant personalized message that they're getting along with this learning experience. And it takes me literally 5 seconds to say, awesome job. I'm happy that you're a black belt in Litmos now. So I don't do that all the time, definitely. And I don't have that as a automatic setup, but that's just one example of a way that you can say, hey, thanks for participating, I noticed. And even in person, when this whole COVID thing's over and when we're in the office, you can go shake somebody's hand and say, yes, you've onboarded, you're part of the company now, you've gone through all your onboarding. That goes such a far way in getting them pumped up for all the work that they did, because really, it's a lot of work putting people through training. No matter how many buzzwords, how many micro bite-sized learning pieces, how agile you make it, how gamified it is, it's still a lot of work for people. It takes time out of their day. And like Mike said, we're all fighting for people's time. So every little bit you can do. And then also, I'll talk a little bit about some friendly competition, a little bit on one of the next slides. Mike, if you want to go to the next slide, we can show how we do this in Litmos Dojo.
Yeah, just one thing. I mean, shameless plug here. Obviously, we're showing you some things in the Litmos platform, but again, the idea behind it is just providing that recognition across the board whenever you can. When it's just through phone, email, like Josh said. I don't want it to be like, oh, it's just this, but there are lots of different ways to do it. And one of the things that Josh was talking about right here is, just making it cool looking too for them, right? Yeah. So because this, you can, Josh, right? You can send this out and set it to, once a course is done, it goes out to them, and it's not just a basic, you completed, good job. It's like, man, look at that. It has their name on it and has all that stuff. It's pretty cool, right, Josh?
Totally. And that's about an hour or two of design work. So I mean, all of our people attending this webinar, you all have your own resources. If you have a designer on your team, a graphic designer, instructional designer, I'm sure you might be connected with them. If not, definitely make friends with them, because they can help you build these certs. In Litmos, I mean, all you need to do is just upload a Word document, and then with customized fields, and those will be recognized by the system, and then basically you could just pump out a certificate from any course completion. But all I did right here is just add a background image with all these with all these really cool dojo graphics and this overlay, and on that, I mean, it really is a difference between getting a designer, getting in 2 hours, 1 hour of work, to have that versus a blank lame PDF that says congratulations for completing your black belt.
Exactly.
It really makes a difference as somebody who actually goes through it. They get something nice. On another level,
real quick, Josh, just real quick, because on that note, like back in the days when we could actually get together and do conferences and things, do you remember those? Oh, those were so fun. I remember one we did, and we ran out of
pins,
these types of things, the certificates at the end of it, because so many people joined. And people were calling us like, I mean, we want our certificate. We didn't get it. And they were like really serious about it. So, I mean, and at the end of the day, though, I want to draw it back to the point of this whole presentation today, right? Is when you think about a buzzword, gamification is definitely one. But what are we trying to get at? Recognition, letting them know they matter. These are the things that I want you to think through it that way, not like we have to have gamification. It's like, no. We need to have some ways in which we recognize people, and let them know they matter and that we saw them and that we care. That's really what we're trying to do. Not gamification isn't, it's a means to the end, but the end is what we're really trying to get at, right?
Absolutely. Actually, going back to that other one, keep on. Yeah, sure. I just wanted to point out too, if you wanted to recognize somebody specific too, you can do that. We have the Master Student Award in the dojo. I blocked off the name, the gentleman's name who won it just for privacy purposes, but
Nice.
this person actually completed an exponential amount of courses, and I think it was in May or June, because in the dojo you can see who's completed what, and this guy's, I think he completed like 40 courses or 50 courses compared to like the 20. So I had to recognize him and say, I first connected with him on LinkedIn, and I said, hey, I noticed you're like super involved. I just want to say thanks. And then I kind of got to know him and his use case a little bit more. And that actually built a good relationship between us, me and him, and also our company and him, just so he can understand that, you know, we're involved and we trust him. So for him and for students going forward, every so often I'll issue out this Master Student Award, which is a great way to provide this recognition that's ever so valuable. And on the bottom of the page here is just some badges. Mike, if you want to flip to the next page, I can talk about the badges that we issued out,
Sure.
and how we use recognition in our partner training program too.
And that's my real signature in case you want to forge any checks in my name or something like that. That's it's out there for the world to see.
Can't get that far. I tried. No.
Okay.
Yep. One other thing too. Providing recognition also draws participation. We hosted a partner training academy a while ago, and in that we had live sessions with people, and we wanted to get them involved and really participating. We had some issues at first. People weren't turning on their cameras. People weren't fully submitting their homework assignments, and people weren't showing up to the sessions on time. And while this was a very serious program, we wanted to make sure that we, you know, further reinforced that we wanted their participation in there. So we recognized some of these learners who actually turned on the cameras and uploaded a profile picture by just creating courses in Litmos and then assigning gamified badges to it. And then we use these badges as talking points at the beginning of every single session. So we
right.
Yep. You have to publicly recognize every your learners and your people, and really put them on a pedestal and say thank you so much for doing what you do. And here's, obviously it's just a little picture, but that picture goes a long way when it actually is accompanied with an actual message from me. And that's pretty much all I had to say on that and for recognition gamification. Anything else that you wanted to add, Mike or Gabe?
Gabe, you good?
Yeah, I mean, I remember during that partner training session when you guys started to offer these out, because you know it was kind of a struggle at the beginning to get that interaction and to get that. But once the badges started coming out, people started to get pretty competitive.
Yeah.
That was a pretty significant change.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Again, let's take a step back again. What are we doing?
Yeah.
We're showing that they matter, right? We're showing that they matter.
Yep.
And we put a little bit of time into it, right? Like, how many people still handwrite letters and send them in the mail, right? And if you got one, would you feel it's a completely different experience than an email from somebody? I mean, think about that, right? We have a friend, one of my wife's best friends, that's all she does is send handwritten letters. She still, to this day, will write letters to Angie and she'll get them in the mail, and she has a different smile on her face when she gets it, right? She's just so like, because you took a little bit of time. And you can see here that we took a little bit of time to build out a lot of this stuff. And let's say you have thousands of learners, and of course you're not going to handwrite a note to every single one of them. But if even this shows that you've done a little bit of time and put some effort into it, and you have some skin in the game, and they're going, oh, that's cool. You're not just phoning it in, right? With a one sentence paragraph on a white background that says congratulations on your completion. You know, like, be thinking about it, because the idea, again, going back to the main thing, is that we want to get them competent, confident, and grow, and we want them to be excited about this stuff. And so this is a good way to do that. Thanks, Josh and Gabe. I appreciate that. Last slide, just to finish this up. How do you keep the momentum going? Ongoing excitement and engagement. It's about you just connecting with the learners as much as you can, doing some of the things we've talked about. You know, opportunity, skills, recognition. Looking at your programs, doing a deep dive assessment of just being like, all right, where do we provide the opportunities? How many different ways can they get training? Is it important to them? Is it important to their bosses, which I think is the most important thing? Are they going to push it, right? keeping it exciting, doing the badges and the buttons and thinking again, it's not, try not to use the gamified, right, as the buzz, because we want to get beneath the buzz, right? And just like we want to recognize people for people and the contribution that they make to the business and to the world, right? I think that's important, just getting a little bit deeper there. Identify new leaders and involving them. Keep that momentum going by understanding who those next people are that are going to carry the banner, right? And going to pick up the torch, or mixing lots of metaphors for you to, whatever it is for you, that they're going to be the ones that are going to champion for you next. And then empowering people at the individual level to take advantage of the stuff that you have and to make it worth their while and what's in it for me. Because at the last thing I want to leave you with is that, sure, the buzz stuff isn't bad. The buzz gets your attention. That's why it's called buzz, buzz, and you're looking around like, where's that coming from? I love it. But we need to think beyond that, just get a little bit deeper, because that's the stuff that really matters. It's like, sure, AI does this, but and this is the buzz, and then we have to, but what is it really doing for me? Is it making my job easier? Is it making people more competent and confident? Is it making it easier for them to get, like, and how am I using it? Or am I just using it because it's cool and I should be using it because everyone else is using it, thinking through that, like, what does that look like? What is our micro learning developed, synergistic, the things that we say sometimes to customers and such, and like, what does that even mean? We used to want, like, innovative learning solution was our tagline for a business I started in 2000 to 2006-ish. And I'm just, to this day, I have no idea what that means. Innovative learning solution. Like, I hate it so much that I don't even use the word solution anymore, because I'm like, what does that even mean? It's like, I get that it's like I don't know. It's just so overused that I don't hear it. So anyway, get past the buzz. I know it's what catches your attention. I know it's the thing that gets us looking around, but then ask yourself that question, like, okay, what am I doing beneath that? What are the components of that buzzworthy thing, right? And how am I doing that stuff to make it to make my learning experience that much better? So right here at the top of the hour, we're a minute late, actually. I pride myself on punctuality. I apologize for keeping you a minute late. So thanks for sticking around if you did. Josh and Gabe, as always, thanks for being here and offering your advice and insights. I appreciate it. Big thank you to all. And yes, this will be recorded and be sent out to where you can get it. And again, for all posterity, it'll be on the interwebs. Gina, behind the scenes, thank you so much for putting this great, wonderful piece together. And that's all I've got for you. So thanks for joining, everybody. And go buy Litmos if you don't have it already. Shameless plug. Okay, or come talk to me. By the way, hit me up on LinkedIn. Mike Martin, you can find me there. Or if you have any questions for me, or or feel free to contact me at any time. I'm happy to walk through anything from a learning side as well. I want to support you in your journey to take over the training world and make it great for everyone. So with that said, thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks all.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.